Welcome back to the shop. Today I'm working on making another slip joint folder, and the stage I'm at now is all about working the rise and fall. And let me explain to you what rise and fall is first. On a pocket knife, when you open and close it, the back spring there that you can see running down the center, that will rise and fall as the tang lifts it up. You see that? And what we want to make sure of is that in the open position, we want this to be perfectly flat. Right? Makes sense. So let me use two hands here. When your knife is open, you want that to be perfectly flat so that you don't feel the back spring sticking up. And then in the half position, again, we want that to be perfectly flat for the half stop. And then in the closed position, we want it to be perfectly flat again. Have you ever held a pocket knife and the back spring stuck up just a little bit in one of those positions? So down here, that thing was just a little bit proud, like this. Oh man, that's annoying, because you've always got this little sharp edge constantly getting you. So what I'm doing now is shaping this tang on three sides so that the amount of rise and fall on the back spring is exactly the same when the blade operates. And how do we check that? We check that with this gauge. So this is just the depth gauge. You see this plunger here moving up and down? And as that moves up and down, the needle swings around. So the deflection, when that goes up a little bit, I can measure that. You see that? And I want to measure that height in all of my three positions. So right now, everything's flat. We're in the down position. I'm gonna turn my gauge to read 0. So right now I have 0. As I put my blade to the half stop, it's gonna flex that spring 40 some thousandths and come back to rest at about 2 thousandths. 2 thousandths high, proud of where it was flat. Now when I go to close it, in the closed position, I'm at about, what's that, just over 1 thousandths. So right now, this back spring would be sticking up just over 1 thousandths compared to the closed position of 0. How good is 1 thousandths, right? Is 1 thousandths gonna stick up like a sore thumb? Well, let's find out. How much is 1 thousandths? Here's a little piece of paper. It's just a little thing that came with a key fob that I bought. And as you can see, it's about as thick as a Post-it note. It's just a little scrap of paper. And I am going to wedge it in here under my rise and fall indicator. All right, so I've put that piece of paper in there, and that piece of paper is, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, about 3.5 thousandths, 3.25 thousandths. That's how thick this piece of paper is. Call it 3 thousandths just for round numbers. So when I take it out, flatten my blade back into place, we're back to 0. So this piece of paper is 3 thousandths thick. And as you can see, I mean, there's nothing there. If I lay it down flat and rub my finger across that edge, I can just barely feel it. So how much does 1 thousandths matter? 1 thousandths is okay. I'm not going to take off any more metal on purpose, because what's going to happen is, as I'm working on this, these edges will get polished a couple more times, right? Not this edge. This edge is done. That'll never change. But this edge here is going to get polished, and this edge here will get polished a couple times. And as that gets polished, it very may well lose half a thousandths, you know, a whole thousandths. And that's going to bring me right back to where or not back, but bring me down to perfect. If I was to remove this thousandths now and then polish it some, that could take me low, and I can't put metal back, so we're not going to do that. So this is good enough for this stage of the process, and it'll get double checked again before the knife is finally assembled. But that is rise and fall in a nutshell. Thanks.